So we've learned how to teach somebody how to slow time down. And the way you slow time down is when the only thing on your mind is what's on your mind. That's when time slows down. So when you're writing an article, Matt, and you're in the flow state, you've got the article, you've got the computer, you've got your thoughts, all these things are happening, right? Mm-hmm. And therefore, time is whizzing by. You're in flow state, as Csikszentmihalyi would say, and 6 hours turns like it's 2. Mm-hmm. But that's an outcome process, right? Meaning, I got my article written, and boy, that really didn't take as long as I thought it would take. Mm-hmm. So you feel good about it. I don't want that. I want wow, man, I wrote the article in 1 hour, and it seemed like it was 6. Because if I'm thoroughly enjoying the article and I'm present, doing what it is I'm supposed to be doing, I wanted to go slow and then look at the clock and go, oh my gosh, it was only an hour? So I don't want to finish the article in 6 hours. I want to finish it in 1 hour, but think it took me 6 hours because I thoroughly enjoyed it.
This is an intro. Intro. Hustle and flow chart with your boy, my boy, Matt Wolf and Joe Fair. Hey! All right. So this is going to be a fun one. This is an episode with one of our very good friends and mentors. His name is Marx Acosta-Rubio. I think he's been on the show either 5 or 6 times. I think we said 5 on the episode. I think it's more like 6, maybe even more. Guaranteed he's going to be back again, and there's a very good reason. This guy is, I think, the smartest guy we know when it comes to doubling your money, or just really increasing your revenue and your income in general. But more importantly, taking more time off to do the things in your life that you want to do, the fun stuff. So what he's done in this episode, we go very deep as always. Marx, I mentioned it, I think at the very end of the episode, maybe throughout. This guy reads more books and digests more content and actually distills it into actionable strategies more than any person on the planet that I know. And you'll see why. I'm looking at these notes that he gave us for this episode, and he just lists out, I think it's 30 different principles, or these tools that essentially, things like the Hawthorne Effect, the 80-20 principle, the Parkinson's law, the Peter principle, getting things done principles, the vital 3, the 16x principle. The guy pulls out all these different principles. And then what he does, because he's read so many books, and it goes way back in the past 2 times, like the old books like Think and Grow Rich, he is distilling information from these foundational books and essentially wraps them up into a process and a format that you can then apply to your business and your life. So in this episode, we're talking a lot about making more money. So his big goal here for you, and this is what he does at Focal Point, which is his coaching company. And essentially in this episode, if you want to dive in or at least chat with him even deeper, I highly recommend you do that. I'll just give you his email address here, because he's like the only person on the podcast that does this. He says, email me, and I know a lot of people you might have actually in the past in some of the previous episodes. I think after you listen to him this time, you definitely want to just shoot him an email, even if it's just a quick question or a thanks. I think you will get a lot from it, even if you just have him as a contact. I'm going to give you his email right here, because why not? It's marxar@me.com. So that's marxar@me.com. So in this episode, what we're going to dive into is really the goal is to double your revenue or your income. Really, we're talking about income, so personal income, double that to yourself, but then double your time off as well. So he's going to challenge you to take a bunch of time off this year, but it's counterintuitive. You'll hear why, because from his knowledge, from his his experience and all this stuff and the people he's coached, the more you contain your work time, so you actually do more of the stuff you want, if you plan more of what you want to do first and do that in advance. So right now it's towards the beginning of the year. Now's the perfect time to plan out the rest of 2021 and beyond, and start taking some time off, plan for trips, pay for those trips, if you can travel. If not, then, do some cool stuff around your house or local area, but have this stuff in advance, paid for, booked, and all that. That's going to allow you to really contain your work time and really focus on the core things that you need to get done to achieve what you want to achieve. And when doing this, when you're working on all of the right things, you're going to make more money, and you're obviously going to have more time off because you booked yourself to do that. And it's probably one of the scarier things for a lot of business owners because, it gets us out of our routine. But why do we want to? I mean, this is the business that we've created. This is the life that we want. So Marx essentially flips everything that you've heard, or a lot of the things you've heard, on its head. And we actually cover 6 very specific principles in this podcast episode that you can apply, and you'll hear me, brain exploding. I mean, this happens a lot, but we just have so many brilliant people. You'll see how these 6 principles, you've probably done a handful of them as we have, but when you tie them all together, it's something special. And that's where you're like, oh, okay, this makes sense. And this is totally possible. And I think a lot of folks, you listening right now, depending on wherever you're at in your business, you can apply these things. It doesn't matter if you're doing, over $1 million, 100 million, or just 100,000, or maybe you're just starting from scratch. This is something you can have in your mind. I mean, really, or sooner the better in business. But once you apply some of these principles and really take Marx up on this plan of, booking time for yourself first above business, it's going to really prioritize things in the right way for you. So enjoy the episode. We're taking a ton of notes for this one for you. So their action guides are going to be ready in 2 weeks. They are free of this episode going live. You have 2 weeks to grab those notes, and you'll get them at flowchartgroup.com. Again, that's flowchartgroup.com. And what that does is it'll redirect you to our Facebook group. Now, you'll get a couple questions to answer, but make sure you plug in your email address, because that's how we know to send you these action guides. So you'll get the notes for this right away once you enter your email address over at flowchartgroup.com. Make sure to enter that email address. Some people do skip it. But either way, you're going to also get access to our community in Facebook where we're hanging out, and also a lot of the folks from the episodes. And I think Marx is in there as well. And if not, we're going to pull him in there. But either way, make sure you hit up Marx. Again, it's marxar@me.com. That's his email address. Direct to him. He will answer you. He's amazing. He gets back to you quickly. And I know he's there to help you out. So if you like Marx, go hit him up. But without further ado, let's go head over to Marx. All right. I think we're round 3 now, right, Marx?
I think this might be round 4, actually.
I was going to say it's either 3 or 4.
David Allen, right? So that was technically...
We had Allen, we had Ruden. I've been on twice. That's 4.
The 4th? 5th?
Yeah, this was your 5th time on the show.
You guys should get me a chair right next to you.
Yeah.
Just right in the middle.
I mean, the commute will be a bitch, but...
But for you guys, it'd be great. We're happy to do it.
I don't know how you got the honor to get on here 5 times, my man. No, I know how. I know how.
I have no idea.
That's what we're going to talk about. How are you doing, though? What's the update from Marx Land for everyone, actually?
Okay, great. So I'm feeling great. Added more food to my diet, physically vibrant. Love what's happening in today's economy because there's a lot of opportunities. Love the wife, love the kids, love you guys. And the stuff that we're doing with entrepreneurs is working way better than even I anticipated. And I'm an optimistic guy. Like, I'm like, oh, this could work great. And nope, it was like, wow, I had no idea that would work that well. And I've been racking my brain, trying honestly to figure it out. Like thinking about it, I can't.
What do you mean?
It's like, so the best I've come up with so far is imagine that you plant a seed and all of a sudden you water it and you sunshine and, nutrition, whatever, and it starts to grow. And you go, how did the seed become a plant? It's becoming a plant, but you have then no idea how the seed became the plant. So some of these principles and laws that we've used that have worked so well for us are now working even better for our clients. I don't know why, or I don't know how. And that bugs me because I want to know, right? Like why does that thing work out? For example, somebody just signed up for Focal Point, meaning the coaching double income, double time off. And the minute they signed up and paid the hefty fee, they got 2 opportunities that showed up that were going to equal more than they paid for us. Now, coincidence? I don't know. It's happened too many times about that. But I did write down 6 things that if you guys let me share, I'll share with you. That I think the audience can do to test my hypothesis that this stuff works.
And your hypothesis, really, really, really quick, just to give the overview, because you've given us a lot of this, is basically double your time off, double your revenue, right? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
So the idea is how do you double your income and double your time off? Now, that's a philosophy. Right now, we do actually try to get you to take 150 days off, and we do get you to look at what your income is and double. I mean, we keep track of those metrics because it's important. But it's a philosophy. So one of our clients said, okay, so once I take X number of days off, I can't take double that off next year. So my question was, how much pleasure can you stand?
Interesting question.
Right? And I did not make that question up. Richard Bandler, the founder of Neurolinguistic Program, or one of the co-founders, brought that question up. So I took it from him because I'm a great modeler, but it really is his origination. And it's a great question, isn't it? How much pleasure can you stand? So then we learned how to slow time down, which we can talk about if you want, so that 1 hour seems longer.
I think everyone wants that right now.
Do you remember when you were a child and you went to play with your buddies? Now, I don't know how you guys play with your friends, but we'd get our bike and just go down the street and go to Johnny's house. Or what. Okay.
Yep.
And summers lasted forever. And days were super long.
Yep.
But now you wake up and you're like, where did they go? Right?
Yeah.
And that's a terrible way to live, right? So what we've done is we figured out how to slow the day down. So it's like when you're a child and it's like you put a week's worth of experiences in a day. And that is a very trippy thing.
So give us
we got to get into that. I mean,
do you want to start there with like Marx? Do you think that's a good spot? It seems like a good tease, and then we could talk about the principles after this, huh?
Sure. So all right, so let me give you where I first heard this, right? So there's a guy named Dan Inosanto. Dan Inosanto was Bruce Lee's best friend and protege, meaning the one guy that Bruce Lee loved the most and hung out with and taught. And we studied with Dan, meaning I studied with Dan for about 10 years, martial arts, many, many years ago. I just turned 51, and I was with him from about age 18 to about 38.
Wow.
So anyway, so Dan said he once asked Bruce Lee, he goes, dude, how are you so fast? And Bruce Lee goes, I am not fast. I simply slow time down. And the guy's like, what? Like, what do you mean you slow time down? So Bruce said, as you see this, and my hand kind of claps to the hand, right? It's Newton's speed. He said, Bruce, he goes, I would see this. So he could slow it down.
It's like Matrix bullet time.
I was just thinking that.
But here's the key. Have you guys ever been in a bicycle accident, motorcycle car, or a situation where time slows down?
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, when I was in a car accident, everything was like slow. It was like, oh, real slow. Or a bike accident. So what's happening is your brain hyper focuses on everything around it. And that makes the perception of time slow down. It has no thought except what's occurring. You're so present in the moment, time slows down, right? Because time is all about perception. There's no such thing as time. Remember Einstein? I'm in with a pretty girl, seems like a second, but a minute in a stove with your finger on it seems like an eternity. Time is truly relative.
So are you referring to like being in a flow state? Is that sort of the same thing? Because a lot of times if I'm in like that flow state where I'm just not thinking about time, I'm heads down, getting something done, that to me almost makes time feel like it disappeared, right? Like if let's say I'm like writing an article and I'm in a flow state and I'm just like, wow, this is just flowing really good. I could spend 6 hours, but that 6 hours felt like 2 hours. You know what I mean?
And that Csikszentmihalyi wrote the book called Flow, right? And so that's what he's referring to. This is probably different than flow based on his definition. It's more about being present. So remember, we go back to when you're a little child and you went to play with your buddies and that day lasted forever. Because why? You were present only with external reality rather than your internal reality.
So that's the difference maybe is external versus internal, because internal would be more flow, I would imagine. Okay.
Yeah. So when you're paying attention to what's really outside of your world, there's no internal dialogue going on, right? Time really goes slow. Now, for the rest of the world, they saw Bruce as super fast, right? Like super, super fast. I mean, the cameras had to speed up to catch the frame. But Bruce just saw the world as slow when he turned on what he called the adrenal burgers. So he would call it because he thought the adrenal glands were kicking in, and so time slowed down for him. And he could do it at will. He could just turn it on, and all of a sudden you're like, you're punching slow, and he could just move, pop, and parry. And in his mind, he's not fast, you're slow. And that's a very different way. In fact, a lot of the principles that we've uncovered on doubling your income, on doubling time off, are counterintuitive. They're the opposite of what you think. Example would be, if you want to make more money, take more time off.
You told us that, and I was like, huh? Yeah, I remember that was the leading thing you said. I mean, that's probably the most important one, it seemed like.
So we took the pyramid and we flipped it on its head. So we don't start with, okay, let's go talk about your income. We go, hold on a second. Let's talk about your lifestyle, your life. What is it you want to do? What do you thoroughly enjoy? And let's schedule 150 days off a year. Weekend, 6 major holidays, 1 extra 3-day weekend, 2 months off, right? Total 150 days off. Because what's happening then, well, we'll talk about this in a minute. Let me finish the time stuff real quick. So we've learned how to teach somebody how to slow time down. And the way you slow time down is when the only thing on your mind is what's on your mind. That's when time slows down. So when you're writing an article, Matt, and you're in the flow state, you've got the article, you've got the computer, you've got your thoughts, all these things are happening, right? Mm-hmm. And therefore, time is whizzing by. You're in flow state, as Csikszentmihalyi would say, and 6 hours turns like it's 2. Mm-hmm. But that's an outcome process, right? Meaning I got my article written and boy, that really didn't take as long as I thought it would take. Mm-hmm. So you feel good about it. I don't want that. I want wow, man, I wrote the article in 1 hour and it seemed like it was 6. Mm. Right? Because if I'm thoroughly enjoying the article and I'm present, doing what it is I'm supposed to be doing, and I wanted to go slow and then look at the clock and go, oh my gosh, it was only an hour? Mm-hmm. So I don't want to finish the article in 6 hours. I want to finish it in 1 hour, but I think it took me 6 hours because I thoroughly enjoyed it. Mm-hmm. Oh. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So Csikszentmihalyi is right about the flow state, but I remember one time being in my snowboard and it was Mammoth, California, about 12 years ago. We had owned the condo in Mammoth, and I remember going down Cornice, and I'm on this edge, and I had the awareness that I was on the edge in the mountain and that nothing else was in my mind except snowboarding. Mm-hmm. But when I had that awareness, I almost ate it. Like, because I had the awareness of it. But before I was doing it, it was almost as if I was in the mountain, just on my edge, standing still. Even though I was whizzing at, how many miles an hour, right? Standing still. And that was the first conscious awareness I had of slowing time down. But now, Nancy and I, my beautiful wife, we make each day almost seem like it's a week. And it's not subjective, it is truly objective. And we do so much throughout the day. But for us, it was like, no, we're just kind of chilling out and relaxing.
So what's
kind of enjoying.
Yeah, what's an example day that, like, obviously every day is different, but what's a general structure that you guys would do every single day to make that reality for you, that feeling happen?
Okay, so are you asking for our routine or are you asking for the technique to slow things down?
Well, I'd like to hear both, but yeah, I think let's start with like your routine. Like, what does a day in the life look like?
So, we're up between 5 and 6 in the morning. Mm-hmm. And, first thing I do is I get up and I go check my blood sugar levels, make sure that they're in line, which thank God that they have been. And then, I write 10 goals every morning. I take a journal out and I write 10 goals for the year. And they're generally, I'm sitting on a journal. They're generally the same. And so I write today's date and 10 goals, and, and I write them as affirmation, right? I, X, Y, Z, we, X, Y, Z, and then I sign it. And that's the first thing I do because when your brain is first awake, dopamine is released. And dopamine is that part of the brain that feels good, but is achievement oriented. Same with norepinephrine. So there's epinephrine, which is in the body, and there's norepinephrine, which is in the brain. So dopamine, cortisol, and norepinephrine are at the peak when you wake up, which is why, meditation right off the bat is not a good thing. Mm-hmm. It's not, because you're going to not take advantage of those hormones. So I give my brain something to achieve right off the bat. Hey, here's the 10 things we're going to do this year. And so it gets excited and happy. Then I go down, I do my affirmations with havening. And, the havening process, right? That
we did a whole episode. So anyone curious, go check out havening, and Marx will be on there too.
Of course. And so I do that. And then I do it differently than I did in the past. And so we can talk about that if you want at some point. And that'll take about 10, 15 minutes. And when I'm doing that, my wife is doing it with me. So I do the affirmations out loud. I haven, she havens. We both visualize the outcomes of the affirmation. I start with my definiteness of purpose, which is, from Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich, right? I, Marx Acosta, along with honey, we have X, Y, and Z, and extern for that, yada, yada, yada. And I say it 3 times. Then I go through affirmations of states that I want to have and things that I want to do and emotions. I am faithful. I have faith. I believe. I'm confident. I feel healthy. I feel happy. I feel terrific. Just things that put me in a good state. And I'll do the havening and I'll visualize it. The face, arm, hand havening. And then after that, and that will probably take 15 minutes. The goal takes about 10 minutes, putzing around. And now my cortisol levels come down a little bit. My norepinephrine is still excited and my dopamine is still excited. So then I do the Wim Hof breathing. Round the 4, which I love. I usually don't talk about it because people go, well, how do you do it? Go look up Wim. Yeah. And it's about 20 minutes, 25 minutes. And I get to about breath hold about 3 minutes and 30 seconds on my 3rd and 4th round. And then after that, a nice warm shower with a cold shower. And then I'll do a Goscue. And then after Goscue, breakfast. And then at breakfast at the table, my wife and I, we sip our nice, delicious coffee after having the breakfast. And we go over the day. What are you going to do today, baby? What do you got planned? We sort of review the projects, talk about our clients. And it probably takes us 30 minutes, sometimes more, but it feels like it takes us 5 hours, right? Because we're just chilling, enjoying it. We're present, time's really slow. And all these things are just taking advantage of the brain hormone. So by the time that I get to my desk, which is probably 8:30 at this point in time, right? It takes a couple of hours to go through the routine. I know exactly what's going to happen. I know exactly what my outcome is. And because I practice GTD, right, getting things done, also look at David Allen's episode that you guys had with him, and nothing's on my mind except for whatever's present. And that's one of the tricks, right? Matt, how do we do that is, really it's when the only thing on your mind is the only thing on your mind, and you're aware of that, then time slows down. It's when you have more than one thought about something at that moment in time, the time speeds up. The trick is sort of this Parthenon of techniques that allow you to be present in the moment, meaning now we can talk about just be mentally present. It doesn't work like that. You have to understand how to capture every thought you have so that when you show up, you have no thought. If you do, you got to write that sucker down. So David talked about, I think in your podcast, David Allen said that and he said this a bunch of times before, there's a big difference between capturing 99.9% and 100%. In order to slow time down, you got to capture 100%. 99.9 will not. It won't do it. My beautiful wife and I, we had this epiphany together. We were going for our daily walk, which is something we do before lunch or sometimes after. And about 30-minute walk. We just walk, we live in a golf course area, so we walk over the golf course and back. And we're just walking, and this is a couple of months ago, we're having no dialogue. And I go to her, I go, does it seem to, it was 11:30 in the morning. And I go, baby, doesn't it seem to you like the day's going by really slow? She goes, yeah, I was thinking the exact same thing, because we're very in sync now, right? She goes, I think the exact same thing. I was like, weird, and it's only 11:30. She goes, I know. And so that's when we discovered this whole slowing time down. And we began to teach it to our clients. I'll share with you guys how we go through the process. And they started not 24/7, but they get a glimpse of it. They get to touch it. And then when they had that, once you have that visceral awareness of like, oh my gosh, I just did this and it felt like it was time had slowed down. I was totally present. Now they can not chase it, but they can attract more of it. Right. And it really becomes, and the reason why we start with taking 150 days or 200 days off a year, whatever you want, we make our clients schedule it. We make our clients pay for it in advance, all of this stuff, right? Is because by doing that, we invoke 3 very important laws or principles, which I'm happy to share if you want now with the 6 deliverables. And this will all tie back, I promise, to this whole idea of slowing time down. Because slowing time down really is one way that you can double your time off, double your income. And more importantly, like we said in the beginning, that philosophically, it's about being, you want to live 100 years and go, I am so tired. I think I've been here 1,000 years on this earth. You don't want to go, holy crap, I'm 100 years old and it's like I blinked my eyes and here I am.
Right.
You want to show up at 100 exhausted, going, oh my God, that's been forever. Because that is a life worthwhile. A life worthwhile is not when you go, well, where did all time go? That's,
Which, like, when you hear all the, the last words from some of the older people, that's typically the biggest regret.
Yeah, they have 5 regrets. There's a book called The 5 Regrets of the Dying, right? Mm-hmm. Which they talk about, I didn't think big enough. I didn't do this. I didn't love enough. I didn't blah. We don't want that. We want to be like, who was it in the Bible? Was it not Paul and Tarsus? But it said, let him find you. You fought the good fight. You gave it all you had, right? We want to die at past 100 going, I did it all, right? And it was savory and sweet, and I lived 1,000 lifetimes in my 100 years. That's a life we want, right? So the philosophy of double is not just double your income and go, more, speed. That's stupid. That's retarded. That's for the unsophisticated, right? The moronic. I'm gonna crush it today. I wear my red suit, and I'm gonna. You know what, dude? That's not me. You go kick the can down the road. I want my days to be long and slow and present and emotional and productive and riveting and exciting. I want to end each day going, that was an awesome day.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Not, I got 8,000 emails responded to and these widgets, not for me, right? Now, if that's for most, and that's I want to talk about the void, because the void is one of the most dangerous things for entrepreneurs. But so for me personally, right, selfishly, that's why I study all these guys like David Allen and Richard Koch, right? You guys get the book Unreasonable Success?
I did, yeah. Back when you told us,
cool.
I don't know, a little while ago, but definitely everyone listening should get that for sure. And we're going to get Richard later on. We're in talks, so he's such a brilliant guy. Thank you.
He's amazing. Oh, my pleasure. And in his book that he sent to me, he said to Marx Acosta-Rubio, the godfather of unreasonable success, right? So that's pretty cool. To me, I don't care if anybody cares. I care, like, wow, like Richard Koch, the man, called me the godfather of the book. This is amazing. Those are joyous moments for me, right? That's like those are things that I live for more than the millions and whatever the case may be, right? So I selfishly want to slow time down because I want to pack in experiences throughout the day. So how do we do that? Well, the first thing is we got to work less. Because if the more you work, the more hamster would you get on. Go, do, go, do, do, do. And then what happens is you end up spending 6 hours, which seems like 2, which is fine, but I want the opposite. I want to get it done in 1 hour and make it seem like it took 6 hours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so, and it's really easy to fall into the trap as an entrepreneur to just take as much time if you have this void to fill, and maybe that's the void you're referring to. You have this big container of time that you're just like, I got this much time. Well, you're containing that time into a tiny little void, I guess, or a container maybe of an hour instead of 6 to get something done, the right thing done.
So you walked right into it, right? That's because you're so smart. So we have these laws, these principles, these rules that are universal, like the law of gravity, right? And we talked about this, and we've read about it in Think and Grow Rich, The Science of Getting Rich by Wallace Wattles, Ray Dalio's principle books, Richard Koch's 80-20 principle. You can look at all these different books and all these different great individuals, and they'll share either some of the same principles or different principles. There's tons of them. So we looked at what principles are going to be the most powerful ones that will help us double our income and double our time off, right? Because that's key, and flip it. So one of the things we do is we say, look, you're going to schedule this much time off, because when you do that, you invoke 3 laws: Parkinson's law, the Hawthorne Effect, and the vital few. You can call them whatever you want. But Parkinson's law states that work either expands or contracts to fit the time allotted for it. Mm-hmm. So if you're going to take 6 hours to write and by the this is primarily intellectual work. You can't dig a ditch in 3 hours. That might take 8 hours, right? So manual labor, I understand, is not necessarily the thing we're talking about. Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
So we're going to invoke Parkinson's law by saying, look, we're going to limit the amount of work, because then we're going to become more creative as to how we do the work. So this isn't manual labor. This is mental work, right? Then we're going to do the Hawthorne Effect. The Hawthorne Effect is whatever you pay attention to tends to grow and improve just by the sheer fact that you're paying attention to it. And this was a study they did many, many decades ago in a manufacturing plant where they observed women. They turned on the light to make it brighter. Productivity went up. they dimmed the light, productivity went up, right? No matter what they did, productivity went up. And when they finally asked them, why does productivity go up? They say, well, no one ever cares to look at us. The fact that you're watching us makes us perform better. So the Hawthorne Effect was born. So when you start to pay attention to these vital few things, or these focal points, or these X marks the spot, or whatever, and you minimize the amount of time, you're going to get rid of the distraction, the 80% that doesn't work, and you're going to focus on the third principle, which is the vital few. So we invoke Parkinson's law, the vital few, and the Hawthorne Effect when we limit your ability to work. Because now you got to go, okay, well, if I only got to work these many hours, I got to get this result done. What are the vital few things that will really move that needle? And what do I have to pay attention to? So if I intellectually told you to do this, you wouldn't do it. But if I force you not to work on weekends, not to work on holidays, to schedule 2 months off the year and prepay for it as an example, and take 1 3-day weekend off every month or more, right? And commit to it, now your brain goes, oh, shoot, now I've got to do it, right? And we invoke that creativity rather than, well, I really don't have to. So, and it's counterintuitive because, Elon Musk said you can't, get ahead in life unless you work 80 hours a day. That may be true if you're a programmer and you got to program 80 hours or a ditch digger. But I've studied and I've interviewed a lot of billionaires, and nobody works 80 hours a week. They're always engaged in something. But sometimes it's riding a bicycle, a motorcycle, getting on an airplane. They get on their private Learjet, have a conversation with the buddy of theirs. It's not work to them, right? It's when Dana White is on his yacht during Christmas with 3 fighters or whatever, he's doing work. But is it really work, guys? Come on.
No. It's like half the time that Matt and I are hanging out. We're not working, but come on. You're right.
Exactly. That's exactly right. And so, and there's 3 parts of the brain, right? There's the reflective brain, which is a caveman. The reflex brain, which is a caveman, the reflective brain, which is sort of the intellectual, and then the archive and the librarian, right? So, and most of your great ideas come from the librarian, not from the thinking brain or the caveman. So in order for you to evacuate the librarian, the subconscious mind, you got to stop thinking and you got to stop doing, and you got to, stop being fear-based. And so when you work, quote unquote, less, and you have more free time, what we're also doing is we're shutting down the caveman. We're letting the thinking brain relax, and we're utilizing the subconscious mind. So you have great ideas, which is really where the money comes from anyway.
Yeah, and that's a good distinction I just wanted to pause on for a second, because, when you initially told us, yeah, you're not going to work, this amount of time, and, that's what you're scheduling off and whatnot, I did kind of shut down the fact that, oh, wait, Matt and I just hop on calls, or we'll hang out, like freaking did a spa session the other night, and we talked about 2 different offers that bubbled up out of nowhere, and we're like, brilliant. But like, my brain originally, when you're like, oh yeah, you're not working, you're working half the time, part of me was like, oh, so I guess we can't do that thing because like we can't, but that's not the case. So I just want to make that super clear here for everyone.
Yeah, we're defining work as moving pieces along, right? Not thinking, not conversing, right? So when you're sitting on your computer writing an article, that's work. When you're taking the Facebook ads, that's work. When you're planning your session, that's work, right? But hanging out, doing things you enjoy with a buddy in a spa, that's brilliant. That's not work, but that's where the money comes from. The money doesn't come and you typing in the article comes and you have to think, oh, I should write an article about this, or I'm going to do that. That's where the money shows up. So doubling the income happens because you're less, quote unquote, doing, which engages this, fear-based and neocortex, and you're more engaged in this connecting with the universe and connecting with these great ideas. So when you're in the spa, when my beautiful wife and I in the morning are just chilling out after having breakfast, going over some stuff, coming up with ideas, that's not work. That's hanging out with my wife, right? Calling a client, that's work. Having a podcast, that's work, right? All these things. And then, by 2:00, I'm done. Like you can't get a hold of me after 2, unless you're a buddy. But if it's work, I'm disappear.
Yeah.
But when a friend of mine calls me and says, hey man, I've got this idea, and oh dude, I'm very excited about it. And like, yeah, we're going to do X, Y, and Z. And here's how to solve the problem. And, we make a few $1 million. That's not work. No,
that's just having a good time with the friend and collaborating on something that you're creating for the world. Yeah.
Exactly right. When most of all the money you'll really make in your life will not come from the doing. The doing is needed. I understand that. We have to do it, right? Or get somebody to do it. It's going to come from this idea of what if, or I'm going to do this, or I'm going to do that. when we started this double income, double time off, I was like, I think I'm really good at this stuff. What if I just label it? And that's like, okay, great, boom, right? And you make more money. But you got to be careful that there's this void, and the void is sort of this dark, amorphous, evil, super scary place that only resides in the heads of entrepreneurs, some CEOs, and creative individuals. This is why we're so busy working, because we're afraid of this void, because the void is this non-achievement, no man's land, right? Where we're alone and afraid. So what is the void? The void is what happened with people who read the 4-Hour Work Week, or Tim Ferriss himself, where you create this great income source. And he's brilliant at it, right? The guy was just such a genius. But then he became very unhappy because there was a void. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So the void is this sort of, if I don't do that, what am I going to do? And that becomes a very scary place, which is why people work. They work to fill the void. The void is not a happy place. Now, when you guys were young and you're kids and you went out to play with your buddies, did you ever have a void?
Yeah, I actually felt I felt boredom sometimes when I wasn't in the structure, but that boredom was really the extending of time. Like I'm thinking of like the summers, and there wasn't really anything specific to do. I was like, this is the longest time in the world. Mm-hmm. Like I loved it, but at the same time, as a kid, like you kind of don't know what to do with yourself.
Yeah, you're bored. You're bored.
Yeah.
So because we didn't have things to do, we're afraid of that void. We don't want to have that boredom. We just stare at a wall. So how then do we make sure we do not get sucked into the void?
Have purposeful things to do and things planned, maybe that you want to do in advance.
You have to become hedonistic. You got to seek pleasure. You got to put that above all else, primarily, again, counterintuitive. So if you love to ride motorcycles, make that your priority, not your job. If you love surfing, make that your priority, not your job. If you love guitar playing, whatever you love, make that your priority, everything else around it. It's scary, but it's the only way to double your income, double your time off, and slow time down, and avoid the void. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. Perfect.
So my wife and I, we love, this is sound really stupid, we love to run errands. We live in a great place, right? So I love to go to the market, look at the new food, especially ones I can't eat or don't want to eat, right? I love to go buy things, So any chance I get to go run an errand, I run the errand. I get to be in the car with her where we get to chat about stuff. She's my favorite person in the world besides my kids. I get to see eye candy when we go shopping, we get to buy stuff. We bought, what you guys saw the other day. And, like today, I told this morning, what do you want to buy today? What are we going to go shop for, right?
Yeah. I
love to do certain activities. I love to work out. I love to read. I love to go for walks. I have so many things I love to do. I'm never at loss as what I'm going to do. I love to watch movies, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I make that my priority. And then I put whatever I don't think is a priority into a small little time frame. So I get in, get out, get it done pretty quickly. Now, it is critical. So the first one is to invoke those 3 laws. Second piece is we have to have clear space, or what they call white space. David Allen calls it, for example, clear space. Richard Koch would call it white space. And that means is moments where your brain is not thinking of something, but about something. Meaning, when you and Matt are having a spa day and you're chilling out, that's white space. Mm-hmm. Because now it's like a whiteboard or clear space. And you could just have all these ideas and sort of download.
I was just going to say, this is something referenced a lot as Keith Cunningham as thinking time as well. So it's one of the most valuable things is creating a space like this, similar to what Richard was talking about. Yeah.
Keith Cunningham's a great guy. I don't know him personally, but I've seen some of his stuff many, many years ago. But here's the problem with those guys. They say things, but they don't tell you how to actually do it. Like, you should think time. Well, dude, I've got 8,000 emails, 50,000 employees, blah, blah. What are they going to think? Bah! Right? So a lot of these books and these quote unquote authors, speakers, they split out these principles, blah, but then they don't tell you how to do it. Like, how the frick do I get thinking time? Like help, right? And this is where other things like David Allen comes in, for example. This is where, as much as I love Richard says it, but doesn't tell us how to do it. Whereas David Allen gives us the key, right? GTD, which I'm a big fan of, obviously, is not something you do, it's something you have. And I think we talked about this last time, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're carrying around I have a little fanny pack right in my wallet and whatever, right? So I have a fanny pack. I don't do a fanny pack, right? So GTD is something you have. And so as you have this methodology, you can always capture your thoughts to get that clear white space. And it's in that clear white space that we come up with the best ideas. And then we can decide, through the 5 levels of workflow, what to do with it. So that's a super, how do I say this? Super simple process that will give you the second principle that you can affect today. So for the listeners, if you just get the book, Getting Things Done, or get coaching, or call off, it doesn't matter, whatever you want to do, just get in that. But then the most important thing you can do is start to capture all of your thoughts. So I usually do it on paper, or I tell Siri on my iPhone, hey Siri, make a note, blah, blah, blah. Hey Siri. So all day long you hear me, hey Siri, I'm sorry, she listened. And I just download all these notes. But then I have 25, 30 notes. And the funny thing is I keep my cell phone in my pocket and it listens to it. I don't have to take it out. I just say it and it captures it. Like I'm walking in the supermarket. Yeah. And I'll be like, hey Siri, make a note, look at nutritional value of black pepper. And he goes, and it just turned on. So I turned off.
Okay.
There you go.
Have you heard of it?
Confirmation.
Right. So that's key. And we teach our clients how to do GTD the way that I do, which is a little bit different. And the third thing is we have to understand delegation. And most people, and we have clients that are worth hundreds of millions of dollars, and they're super brilliant, but they take their level, sort of their game, to a different level when they understand there's three ways to delegate. There's directive, objective, and leadership. And if you understand the 3 ways to delegate, now you see delegation in a different way. Because is this a directive delegation? Is it a delegation by objective, or is delegation by leadership? And you go, okay, what's the difference? Now, you could have a high level individual, for example, you guys are super smart. But if I wanted you to, make coffee for, a certain recipe, I wouldn't be like, hey, make coffee. Like, hey, take this much, this much, this much, because you haven't made it before. You don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So the task maturity level, it depends on how you delegate, right? So directive delegation is when somebody does not have the task maturity level, meaning, okay, Johnny, you're going to go to a store called ABC. You're going to go outside the door. You're going to turn right. You're going to walk 2 blocks to a street called blah, blah, blah. At that street, you can make a right. 2 stores down, there's a door, it's pink, it's got this, you're going to go in, and you just lay out every single step, right? Like you're programming. That's directive delegation. Exactly what to do. Delegation by objective is, hey, Johnny, go get me this steak from this restaurant. He knows you like it medium rare, you don't like it over salted, he knows, right? The objective is get the steak, and he just knows how to do it.
Mm-hmm.
And then leadership is, hey, Johnny, what should we eat? And that's very distinct, right? So a lot of entrepreneurs send leadership delegation to people that have low task maturity, who should be directive delegation, right? They mix the 3 levels of delegation. They might delegate directive to a leadership. I mean, they don't know how to use the 3 phases. So why is this important? Because as an entrepreneur, you shouldn't be doing most things. You should be thinking, engaging, surfing, biking, playing ping pong, conversations, spa days, running errands. That is really your job, because that's when the caveman is relaxed, your thinking brain can come on and off, and the subconscious, the archiving brain, does most of the work, right? You'll have the best ideas. Remember, ideas plus inspiration equals success. And that came from Jim Rohn, but he got the ideas from Napoleon Hill in Think and Grow Rich. So when you think going to a spa isn't work, you're right in defining work and negative, but it's the most productive thing you can do.
Definitely. Yeah.
By far, right? So you got to learn to delegate. Now, directive delegation takes a little longer because you have to type it out or, whatever, right? Objective is simpler, and leadership is super easy, right? Because, hey, what should we do?
Mm-hmm.
Right?
It's a question now. It's not an order, really, or direction. Yeah.
Exactly. Now, but here's the problem, right? In your personal life, when you guys are going to have dinner, if it's not preset, do you normally ask your wife, what do you want to have for dinner?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Definitely. That's like a nightly thing for me.
Right. It's for all of us.
Yeah.
We're delegating leadership, delegation to our wives. And they go, I don't know, what do you want? I don't know, what do you want? Nobody's decided what it is. So in my house, right now, Nancy's in charge. I was in charge for a while. Now she's in charge. I don't ask her, what do we have for breakfast or lunch? I just eat.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I've delegated leadership to her. She just decides. And then when she goes, okay, I'm done deciding for the night, now it's your turn. Then I'll do it. Right? So think about how much time that saves us and how much energy that saves us, right? Mentally.
Yeah.
So in your life, when you ask somebody, what do you want to do? How do you want to do it? If you're not trying to solve a problem, you're trying to delegate to leadership, but that's very costly. So in your personal lives, directive delegation, like when I started teaching my wife how I cook steaks, it was directive. Low heat on the pan, put some suet on there, let it sit until the smokes, then put it in there. And every minute, literally change for every minute, and 6-7 minutes, touch it. If it feels like this, get it out. If not, leave it in there, put it out, put a pan on top, 5 minutes rest. I mean, it was right. Now it's like, there's no need to directive delegate, right? She cooks better steak than I do now. So in our lives, whether personal or business, understanding 3 ways to delegate will save you a ton of time, and you'll be able to leverage people.
I love that, man.
I love
it. Gives like the freedom of the type of delegation you're doing too, because there's an expectation. Nancy knows that she's the leader, so you don't even have to open your brain up. She's cool with direction at the beginning of that relationship when it was more of a directive or direct delegation. She's open, but I could see like if you're both thinking and trying to be the leader, then you're going to get friction. You're going to get like anxiety, people kind of like, no, it's my way, my way, so I love that. I've never heard of delegation split up like that.
It makes it now when you are going to delegate anything, you can ask, is this directive, objective, or leadership? Do I have to tell them exactly what to do? Do I tell them what I want, let them figure out how to do it themselves? Or do I ask them what they want to do? Right. And so now just, hey, man, that saves you a ton of time, and it will increase your effectiveness by a lot. Because it's easy for you now. It's, hey, it's directive. Boom, love the thing. Just go do it. Right.
Perfect.
The fourth thing is changing compensation plans. Now, this applies only to people who have businesses or employees. And I don't want to get too much into that because it's a whole different conversation. But compensation plan really drives behavior. And you want to get the proper behavior because that's what's going to make your company successful or not. And people get paid fortunes to come up with compensation plans. We do too, but ours is really easy. It's got 3. I'll give it to you. There's individual key metrics, team key metrics, and company key metrics. And every employee gets compensated on individual performance, team performance, and company performance. But we'll move on to the next principle. The next one is the power of 3. And the power of 3 is a close cousin to the 80-20 principle or the vital few. And if we had time, which I know we don't, I would have you guys write down 10 things that you do. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, and 10. And that's okay. And then write down the results that you want to get. Okay. Now pick the top 3 of these things to generate 80% of the return or more. Oh, it's this one, this one, this one. Okay, great. You won't do anything else except for that. You're only going to do those 3 things. You're not going to do the other 7 things. And it's hard. It's super hard not to do the other 7 things, but that will increase your effectiveness.
Question.
And we asked them, yes.
How do you, is there a way, like, have you felt resistance to that? So when you pick your top 3, let's say, and you have all these other things, like, did you have a period where your brain was like, well, still these other ones that I feel like are pretty important, how do you combat that? I know you don't now, but like when you were getting into this flow.
No, I mean everybody combats it daily, right? It is something the challenge with what most people tell you to do is that they think you do it once and you're done. That's not at all. It's a continual daily awareness and practice, right? So how do you do it? I do it simply. I just put it all. I have a folder in my GTD system called Hold, and I just stick them in there. Hold for now.
So it's in its place, it's captured, and it's not, no worries, the thing's not leaving, it'll be there tomorrow.
So those other 7 tasks that are on that list, it's not necessarily like, well, I'm just not going to do these tasks anymore. They're just like that's not the priority for today task.
And sometimes they become the priority, sometimes they don't. But it's the rule of 3 that's most important. What are the 3 things? And sometimes it's a behavior set that lasts forever. Right? Like it might be calling clients. I'm making this up, right? So, it's just a behavior set. So, calling clients that we do every single day, I'm assuming, and that beats the other ones. But if you capture it via GTD and you put it in a folder, for example, hold for now, your brain go, they're there. I can use them if I need to or do it, but I'm not gonna. I love that. So David has the someday maybe folder. That's cool. I have one too. I love my hold folder because hold is sort of in between someday maybe and active project. It's like, you know what? I think I'm going to do this. So it's not a someday maybe. It's I'm probably going to do it. I just got to hold it for now. Mm-hmm. I put everything in there that is not this week or next week. But sometimes those things pop into, right? To like, now, for example, I had find a new doctor because we changed insurance to different insurance. It was on my hold for 2 months. Well, now it's an active project, right? Not a problem. It popped in. It wasn't a someday maybe. It was a, yeah, for sure, just not now.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Yeah, because that little gap there, because I was actually struggling with that when following GTD and the someday maybe. It's like it almost felt too far off in a way. So I like that whole intermediary.
Yeah, it's like, so, and for me, since we're diverging quickly, my GTD system always has projects and action items that I want to do. Always. If there's any little, boom, it goes to hold. I know it's there. I just don't need to see it right now. And that makes me go, and this is a coaching that we do, right? And why I think we do, our customization of GT is a little different entrepreneur-wise. We need that. Let's hold it for now. Like, not right now. Mm-hmm. We're going to do it most likely, but let's hold it. Mm-hmm. So that's where we put it. But we focus on the top three. Now, and to piggyback on that, Joe, there's a great question. And you guys could do this now if you want, or we could do it later. It's, if you could not work, literally, I took you and your family, put you in Fiji for 12 months. And said, you're going to be in Fiji for the next 12 months. You can't do anything except you're going to pay somebody $1,000 an hour for 5 hours a day to do work for you. And they have to do things that will generate more than $1,000 an hour so you can cover them and make money. You can't do any work. It's not like you're delegating to them. They are, instead of you, it's them, but you're paying them $1,000 an hour, 5 hours a day, $5,000 a day. That's $1 million a year in income. And only working 5 hours a day. What would you have them do?
That's a good question. I was thinking it's either maybe sales. Sales or content. I mean, because those are the two things that would drive our business and do drive our business.
Sales
so
and
something,
content.
somewhere around there.
Okay. So would you pay somebody $1,000 an hour to do sales for you right now?
Now, with the framing from the spa sesh, yes, because we would have an offer to support, multiple offers to support that.
Okay, great. That's all you should be doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because that's a reality. I could see that picture now with, like, the end goal monetary, and we have mechanisms to back out that revenue and continuity attached to it. 100% that's doable.
So, and Matt, would you pay somebody $1,000 an hour to write the content that you want to write now?
A little less crystal clear on the content, because the content is varying in value. Some content's worth way more than that, some content is worth less than that. So it's a little the waters are a little muddier there in my mind.
True.
And so I had this discussion with our newest client yesterday, and this is what happens every single time: is they come up with answers that are almost as if they're delegated. Well, I would have them do X, Y, and Z so I can do. No, dude, you don't get it. You can't work. You're in Fiji. You have no phone, nothing. You're there for 12 months. You left them with do these things, and you left a bank account paying $1,000. They have to generate income. This creates a disassociation between your subjective experience as to what you think you should be doing versus what you would pay somebody else to do. And when you would pay somebody else to do, it's a much better question, because now you go, what the frick would I pay somebody else to do?
Yeah.
Right? Like, holy crap. And he came up with two things yesterday that were not at all in his purview, at all. Not even part of his job description. And I was like, but you would pay somebody, he goes, yep. I said, and that's what you need to be doing.
What was it by chance? What was that task? I'm kind of curious. I mean, you don't have to say the name of the person, but if it's so out in right field, that task that your client said.
So one was providing, without giving away who it is, bringing in individuals who could invest in a fund.
Okay.
That was one. And the other one was installing certain equipments in large corporations. And he has slight connections to those two entities, but it's not his main business.
It makes sense because I could see how that has this spider web effect, and it's this leverage, this focal point of that thing, and that can spin into all of these, because we have a similar situation. There's probably an answer like that for us as well.
Right. And so when you really think about, gee, man, if I got to pay somebody $1,000, like legitimately, that's $5,000 a day. That's, 25 a day. But when you start to think about that, you go, what would I want them to do? And then your brain becomes more creative if you have clear white space. And now that becomes the answer, or at least potential answer, for what you should be doing to increase your income to the next level. A lot of times we're doing things because we're out of routine habits. I write the content, I make the sale, which we're just sort of in this, right? And we went from X to Y, but we plateaued at Y. But when you were at X, Y seemed like it was a big amount of money. But now that you're at Y, you're just doing the same things you did to get to Y, but you can't get to Z unless you do something different. Right? And so that philosophy is asking these kind of questions to go, gee, if I have the power of 3, but I ask if I paid somebody $1,000 an hour to do this work, what would I have them do? It's a very different answer. And then you got to ask yourself this question, well, can I do that? Am I brave enough to do that? And we always encourage our clients to yes, because it's counterintuitive. Trust me, if you would literally pay somebody $1,000 an hour to get that done legitimately, that's what you should be doing.
And think of the quality person you would get from it too. That's like you'd probably get the best of the best, cream of the crop with the connections, all the knowledge, and you don't have to delegate with direct or objective. It's all leadership focused, I would imagine.
And that's what you should be doing. If you can pay somebody $1,000 an hour to sell what your offer is now, that's all you should be doing. Everything else should be on hold or irrelevant. And now, why? Because if you can generate $1,000 or whatever, I don't know, whatever more you want, $1,000 an hour, so you make $5,000 a day, you now have more resources to delegate and not have to worry about those things and yada yada. You already delegate the food preparation to the supermarket. When you pay for products and services, you've already delegated that. When you start to make more money, you delegate more things in your life, so you keep making more money. Might have this big thing. And so, but the problem with most people is that metaphorically they're stuck in their habits. So we haven that out of them. And that's another trick we won't talk about today. Is the reason why we bring in havening and hypnosis and NLP to the coaching is because we tell them, we ask them, what do you really want? Why do you want it? And we tell them how to go achieve that. But then we help them by getting rid of all that other stuff, right? And the sixth one, that's a deliverable that we hit off the bat, is eliciting the love strategies of your close ones. So everybody has strategies how they do things, right? Your brain goes, this is from NLP, your brain goes through this, syntax of stimulus, both outside and internal, before it makes a decision or does behavior. And it happens in a nanosecond, right? But the love strategy is the one thing where it's one thing that makes you feel totally loved. Whether it's a look she gives you, a way she touches you, or something she says to you. So we teach our clients how to elicit the love strategy. Let me give you an example. I did this with my wife 30 years ago, 28 years ago, when I first learned it. And she needs to be hugged a certain way. She's little, I'm 6 foot, she's 5.5, so her head comes in my chest right here. And I just hug her, and I just a certain amount of pressure, and I put my head on her head, and I give me squeeze, and I love her. I've been doing it for so long, I know exactly how to do it. And when I do that, she just goes, and feels totally loved in 10 seconds. Very small thing, it gets a huge dividends of return, right? Huge. So if I trigger that 15, 20 times a day, she feels totally loved by me all day, every day, and has for the last 32 years. So that becomes super important, because when you elicit the love strategy of your kids and your wife, it's a tiny amount of effort with the biggest returns. And now that she feels or he feels totally loved, you feel like you're wearing an armor when you go into the world of entrepreneurship, because nothing can harm you, right? My wife feels like love. My kids feel like love. When you on a business trip or whatever, or you're out there surfing, whatever, she doesn't have to worry about, does Joe love me? Does Matt love me? Does Marx love me? They feel secure.
Yep.
So it's we want to make more money and we want to have more time off, but what for? Well, it's to make those we love, in our relationships feel even more loved and more joyous and more excitement and more fun. So, it's It's the understanding that you got to minimize your work hours, invoke Parkinson's law, Hawthorne Effect, the vital few, understanding how to apply GTD the proper way so you can have clear space, white space, understanding the benefits of delegation, directive, objective leadership, changing compensation plans, individual key metrics, team key metrics, company key metrics, the power of 3, getting a whole bucket for all the things you're not going to do right now, but you probably will most likely do. And then eliciting the love strategies from those that you love, because there's only 4 ways to change your life. Do more of something, do less of something, start something new, stop something, right? So more, less, stop, start. This came from Richard Koch's book and the 80-20 principle. He alludes to it, doesn't call it that, but really it's what it comes down to. So we overlay this clarify, simplify, maximize, and leverage idea over these 4 behavior sets into all these principles and laws that when we invoke, time slows down for us. We get more riches out of life. We end up making way more money. We end up taking way more time off, and we end up having a greater, more joyous life. Not without challenges, not without obstacles, because obviously they exist, but with resilience. And then we show them the how to. Here's how to get rid of that emotional trauma. Here's how to change that behavior. Here's how to do this, how to do that, how to do, because we can talk about the principles and you can conceptualize and you can apply them. But learning how to trigger your brain so that your mind is in charge is a whole different conversation, which, by the way, is really the key. The key to it all is training the brain with the mind.
And that is why I love you, because you open up so many different perspectives rooted in, I don't know how many principles that you know, and you've listed on this page that you gave us. I mean, you only listed 3 of them on the tool, I mean, GTD as well. But there's like so many others, and
yeah, it ties them all together too. So like, how does this principle interact with this principle? Well, if you know this and you know this and you tie them together this way, then this magic happens. And like, it's just the culminating of all these principles is just brilliant.
Every single time we talk to you, it's something unlocks. And, it's fun. Some of these things I was already doing, we were already doing, but didn't have, I guess, the relationship to how that involves our brain and how that's maybe grounding us and giving us peace of mind, like as simple as the love strategy. Like I realized with my wife, Heather, I like hugs. I didn't really realize I really love freaking hugs. And literally, it's every single time when I see her, I give her a hug, and now she comes to me for one, and it's a good 10, 15 seconds. It's the best damn feeling in the world. And like you said, she could walk away, I could walk away. I'm like pumped on life or whatever, even if things are a little unstable. It's that grounding thing when stuff's a little wacky.
I would challenge you with this. We know your love strategy, but is hers the same as yours, or is hers different? Maybe she has to hear, I love you, in a certain way.
Love language,
like
right?
For me, yes. So for me, my wife is, I give her a hug. For me, she has to look at me in a certain way. That's it. And she doesn't really go, oh, I just feel totally loved.
There you go.
And I didn't know. But the idea is, when was the last time you felt totally loved? What did you see, hear, feel? We sort of elicit that, right? So we got to figure out, I know what it is for you, and maybe it's the same for her. But when I give her love, I feel love. But when she looks at me that way, and she just looks at me in the corner of her eye in a certain way with a smile, I just go,
hey, man, we got to give Marx the look. Come on. Give him the look. We got him. Well, so you've said focal point a couple times, coaching thing, all that stuff. I mean, you're there's a reason why we keep bringing you on this show for the 5th time now, and I don't know how many calls and hours we've spent on the phone. We've never met in person, which pisses me off, but that will happen someday soon. I know. And so tell us about what you're doing for others, because I think if someone wants to contact you and because you've always been very transparent and open and giving your email address and saying, if you want help from me, reach out. And I know a lot of folks have listening, but I think there's even a bigger reason, and you have a lot more structure even around, the right people reaching out.
So the answer is yes. And thanks for reminding me, because I sort of forgot about that. So, we're not cheap, right? We charge $120,000 for coaching clients upfront for 12 months. They pay upfront, it's done. But for the first time ever, we want to do a group coaching format. And because most people that really can apply it really can't afford the $120. And for us, if somebody doesn't make at least $500,000 a year in income, we don't want to charge them the $120, because, it wouldn't really be fair to them necessarily, right? It would be kind of scary for them. So now we want to do something with you guys, is get your audience and do sort of a group coaching where I will walk them through every single step as if they had paid the $120. And, and we'll have phone calls, we'll coach, we'll mentor, we'll teach, we'll do all that stuff in a group setting.
Mm-hmm.
And we'll, look, and we give a money back guarantee. If they don't double their income and double their time off in 12 months, I'll write them a check for whatever the program's going to cost. No problem, right? Easy. I mean, I have the money.
I know you're good for it. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely good for it. Trust me. But we've never had anybody take us up on it because we're really smart. We go, well, what are you making now? What do you want to make? We qualify, right? What does success look like? And then we say, look, if you don't do the work, it's not our fault. But if you do the work, it works every single time. So if somebody's interested, and I think we're probably going to charge most likely about $30,000, $36,000 for the year, and with a guaranteed double. And if anybody's interested, have them reach out, to my personal email, which is marxar@me.com, marxar@me.com, and just say, hey man, I'm interested, and we'll chat on the phone, and we'll see if I'm a fit for you and if they're a fit for me. I like the challenge because since we've had 100% success rate over the last 10 years, right? Now we've never shared with this publicly because it's always been referrals and so it was a side gig. This first time 2-3 months ago that we decided to go public with it. And because some of our clients are really big dogs that are public figures and you know who they are if I mention their name stuff, right? So we sort of kept it on the down low and referrals, and usually we sign NDAs. But I want to bring it now to the public for two reasons. One is I love doing it. It's a lot of fun for me. And secondly is I think now with the pandemic more than ever, right, we need this kind of stuff because people are stressed out. But the opportunities, and we talked about this earlier, I think there's more opportunities now to make more money than ever in history before. But there's also more danger. I think that the U.S. is on the decline. I think China's on the incline. I think the U.S. is going to lose supremacy. China's going to become the world superpower, which owns, and not for me, this is Ray Dalio said this and the changing world order. But I think if we're able to surf those waves the right way, we can make a lot more money and have more freedom. I also think the world is changing whereby, we live in Texas right now, although we've got a couple of residences, but I see myself as a Texas resident, but a world citizen now, which is different, right? Meaning Texas is my home. I love the state of Texas. I love this state. No income tax, freedoms, nice people. I mean, the best is voted the best business. I love it. I wouldn't want to live anywhere else right now. But I see myself as a citizen of the world because things are changing and the borders are they're disintegrating, right? So if you're not understanding China and India and Taiwan and Mexico and all these different places, you're going to miss out, right? Because we're seeing that the education in China is kicking the butt of the U.S. education. Now, maybe your business doesn't have to do with education in China, but it does. Because someone from China is going to come here or they're going to start doing stuff on the internet. It's going to wipe you out if you're not paying attention. That being said, I think the opportunities are greater. So more danger by far and more opportunities by far. And so I think now that showing people how to double income, double time off, because look, I'll leave you guys with this thought. There is no feeling in the world like financial independence. And I think everybody should strive. I didn't understand it until I got there when Jim Rohn told it to me. And I was like, oh yeah, you'd be rich. No. When nobody has any claim on you or your property, I mean, financial independence, meaning you don't owe your mortgage, you don't owe your car, everything you buy is cash, nothing, right? You have no debt, zero debt, because we believe in that philosophy. It is your moral obligation. God wants you to be rich. The people who love you need you to be rich, or at least financially independent, which may mean something different for everybody, right? But your house should be paid for, your car should be paid for, you should have no debt. Once you get to that position, it's a feeling unlike any other, because time even slows down even more because there's less demand. You only do the things you want to do. You don't feel like you have to do X, Y, and Z because if you don't, you're not going to get money. So I believe, right, that for the next 50 years, I want to help people, if they're there, to do even more of that. If they're not there, to become that, right? And it's easier than you think. It really is. Making money is easier. Napoleon Hill said in his book that when riches come, they come so fast in such abundance with little to no hard work, he says, with little to no hard work, that you've been wondering where they've been hiding all these lean years. And that's very true.
So I have a question to you. Obviously, you're not Napoleon Hill, but you've read his stuff probably more than anyone I know on this planet, and his other work. Do you think that's like the riches come quickly? I forget the exact term that he used, but I mean, it seems like we're all doing this prep work before that point in time. Bam! You switch your schedule, you apply your beliefs are different, then all of a sudden it happens. It's almost like this mental release. It seems like could open up the floodgates of riches for you if you understand the principles.
Yeah, so it's a great question and comment. I think the best answer is, Elon Musk was showering at the YMCA and sleeping in his office 3 years before he sold his company for $400 million cash. So it only took him 3 years to go from 0 to 400 million cash in his first company, right? And sometimes people, labor their whole life till they're 60 and then all of a sudden they get riches. The answer is when you invoke the principles, either by conscious choice or unconscious choice, they work for you. Whether you do it at the age of 60 or at the age of 20, right? Or I don't know how old Elon Musk was at the time. So it's not about time. It's about employing these principles and these laws and these rules. That once you add them, the universe just gives it to you. People read books. I mean, obviously, I love to read books, right? People read books as if they're watching a movie. Done, check, next. Done, check, next. And, in some of the books, I mean, the new books today for sales and finance and personal growth, they're done, check. Those are happy meals, right? There's nothing in there. But the other books, the classic books like Think and Grow Rich, which took Napoleon Hill 20 plus years of study, there's so much in there. If you read The Law of Success beforehand and you read that, you understand. There's something there that it's not a book you read, it's a book you try to understand, right? Like the Bible. I mean, whether you're a believer or not, it doesn't matter. There's got some amazing principles in there, right? Mm-hmm. So I think these principles have been hidden in conversations, in books and stuff. It's understanding and then applying them. And the second principle that the Hill talks about after desire is faith. And people just go, okay, whatever, faith. But nobody, he says in his speeches, very few people I've met in my life truly understand what faith is. And there's a reason why he says that. Because people go, yeah, I understand faith, but do you really understand what faith is? And we talked about this before, right? And faith is for example, those listening to the podcast, those that don't want to partake of our program, they have no faith. They'll never succeed to the next level, period. Not because they won't join our program. It's just because they have no faith. Those are like, yeah, I want to join it. That's faith, because you're saying, I have no idea, but I have trust that if I do X, Y, and Z, I know intuitively the rewards will come. Easy to say, not so easy to do.
All right. On that point, those folks that are asking them that question and they're feeling, oh yeah, go reach out to Marx. So, thank you, Marx. I mean, this is unlocked so many more things for us.
Yeah.
I'm sure there'll be around 6 in the near future because why not? Come on.
So what you guys should do, meaning Joe and Matt, you should plan out your 150. Go back to your wife today, make that a priority. Hey, baby, before the end of tomorrow, let's schedule 150 days off. And what that means for you, Matt, is no computer work, brother. Right? No computer work. And Joe, no phone work or whatever it is, whatever, just none of it. And plan your days. Like literally, we just finished it today. I get to where we're going to go. We're going to Disney World, which we love. We're going to go to our beach place. We're going to, we go to Utah all the time because we have a place there. We go skiing. I mean, I take probably 200 plus days off a year. Mm-hmm. I don't work, but I'm still hanging out with really smart, cool, amazing people. Business is still being done. Ideas are still being generated, but I am having the time of my life.
Yep.
So I challenge you guys, do that. Schedule your time off and make it sacred, meaning no quote unquote work, but enjoy it. Do whatever makes you happy. Have ideas, brainstorming sessions, go hang out with Roland. You know what? I don't care. Just don't sit behind a computer.
That's right. All right. We doing that?
Let's do it.
We're doing it.
All right, guys. Anything else?
Marx, thank you. You rock, man.
My pleasure. I know you guys are the best ever. Thank you so much. We'll talk soon.
Love you, bro. See ya.
Mr. Marx Acosta-Rubio, ladies and gentlemen. Marx Acosta-Rubio.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Keep saying his name.
Well, that's what they do at stand-up shows, right? Give it, keep it going for Marx Acosta-Rubio.
Keep it going, y'all, for Marx Acosta-Rubio. The best ever. Best podcast. Get it?
Oh, man. No, I am pumped still after that conversation with Marx. And we talk with him a lot. And I literally always walk away with just feeling pumped.
Yeah.
And it's a new perspective. It's just like,
yeah.
unlocked.
Well, it's funny because I think he held the record for a little while of longest episode that we've ever put out on the show. I think it eventually got surpassed by a Shramko episode that we put out. But for the longest time, like I think we had an episode with him that was like an hour and 45 minutes. But he's also been on the show 5, maybe even 6 times. Possibly. I'm not sure. I know at least 4, and this was 5, but possibly even 6 times. Because he is somebody that he's one of our mentors, right? There's probably 3 or 4 people in this world that we say are like truly our mentors, who like every time we talk to them, the perspective shift is real, right? There's some way that we just think different after that conversation, which is why we have so many damn conversations with Marx and why our conversations last so long. Because like, if the ahas are flowing, I'm not cutting the dude off.
Other than the fact that today we had another podcast to record. Yeah. So, we actually already did. So we're coming back to do this intro. Yeah. But quiet. Don't open the curtains. But yeah, like with Marx, like literally our conversations on the phone are like this. And they usually go for like 2 hours. And the guy is just, and you know, I'm not joking when I don't know of another person on this planet that reads as much as Marx. Like deep understanding of books, and some of these books that, I mean, most of the books that he loves, and as you hear, you know, they're all about principles. He wants to think of the first principles, you know, the things that everything else is built off of. Because like he's always, you know, he's mentioned the books that are written now, a lot of them are for marketing, you know, and they're built off of other principles that were already told. So it's like, well, let's go back in time and figure out what those principles were.
In the business space, like pretty much all of the general marketing principles and what makes a business grow and what makes people's brains tick and the psychology and the mindset and all of that kind of stuff. Every book that comes out is sort of derivative of these books that came out 50, 60, some 100 plus years ago, right? Like they're all sort of derivatives of those existing books. And I think that's kind of one of the big things that Marx is constantly trying to get across is like, we'll mention books to him all the time. We'll say, hey, have you read this one yet? And it'll be a book that came out this year. And he'll be like, yeah, I did read that one, because Marx freaking reads everything. Yeah. But have you read this one that came out in 1942? It's basically the same book, but this is the original source.
Yeah,
you know?
And it'll go deeper on that thing, like the root or whatever it is. And it's probably not going to be less marketing focused, you know?
Yeah. I almost have like a different approach to reading than Marx a little bit. Because I know Perry Marshall, he has a lot of these same philosophies around like read the stuff before the Renaissance.
Renaissance. Yeah.
Yeah. Or whatever it was. Yeah.
It's before the printing press.
Basically. Yeah. Before the printing press. And, you know, Marx seems to recommend a lot of these older books. I tend to like books that are derivative of older books, but sort of explain it in concepts that are easier for my brain to wrap around in modern times.
So what's an example of a book then? I would say The Rational Optimist is... I have not read it, but just from you, because I'm thinking a book that pulls in multiple concepts, but also layers.
I'll give you a real hardcore exact example from my own life, right? So I have this book on my shelf called The Hero with 1,000 Faces, right? It's by Joseph Campbell, and it's basically the sort of original book that explains the concept of the hero's journey. That book is dense, and it was written a long time ago. And I think I read one page and went, my brain hurts, closed the book and didn't finish reading it.
I know which book you're going to now.
Right. And now there's a book called the Writer's Journey, right? That Sean Vossler recommended. He's like the, the Joseph Campbell book. He's like, that's the original. But if you go read the Writer's Journey, that explains the whole concept of the hero's journey. It's just a lot more modern and easier to digest, right? So I do love these old works, these old books, and I have a bunch on my bookshelf, almost more for like collection status, but I almost prefer to read the more modern takes on the same concepts.
Yeah, I was thinking the book I had in mind was Building a Story Brand.
I actually have not read that one yet.
Which is a very small book, but it's taking people along the journey. You know, it might not be as exact, but it's definitely, you know.
Well, the story brand is about branding, and it's a book to business owners. The books that I'm reading now are more books on storytelling, but not geared towards business.
Yeah.
You know,
that's the difference there for sure.
Yeah. So, and like another one, right, is you've got Breakthrough Advertising by Eugene Schwartz, right? Really, really great book. The concepts in it are great, but it is sort of a dense kind of textbook on marketing and the psychology
Persuasion,
behind it and stuff, right? But then you have the book, it's on my bookshelf, The Advertising Solution.
Yeah.
Right? By Brian Kurtz and...
oh my God, we had him on the show. I can't see the book.
Damn it. I'm really, really sorry. It's right there, right next to Super Better.
Get up.
Oh, anyway, so The Advertising Solution is sort of a modern retelling of 3 or 4 different copywriting books, including Breakthrough Advertising. They sort of bring it into modern times, modern language, and make it a little bit easier to digest.
Yes.
Craig Simpson.
Yes. I'm like, this is going to haunt me.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's by Brian Kurtz and Craig Simpson.
Correct. Yeah. And that's an amazing book. And yeah, you're right. That is a perfect book. I think it brings in like 7 different of the OG copywriter types and ad writers.
I think it has like the Robert Collier letter book and like a bunch of like these real big name copywriting books that
but it goes back to principles.
Yeah.
And I think those books are the most valuable books. But I like what you're saying is like read the principles, but also some of these books with the right angling, are still going to harness those same principles and not maybe dilute it too much with like new ways of thinking. I mean, it's cool if there's like an application maybe it tells you about. Yeah.
Like, I mean, it is something that I sort of get in my own head about a little bit is like, I got these books that are sort of complex, but everybody says, oh, you've got to read it to understand these concepts. And then I really, really struggle to get through them. But it's not that like I'm a shitty reader because I freaking crank through books. I read probably at least a book a week. I'll probably read 60 books by the end of 2021, right? So I feel like I go through books fast, but when you get these like really dense books, that one book will slow me way down and it might take me like a month to finish as opposed to a week to finish. And I want to get through more material. So it's sort of something that I struggle with because I'm like, I really should be reading this. But if this book is going to actually tell me the same concepts, but make it easier for me to understand, maybe I'll just jump to the shortcut a little bit.
I think you're switching of books like you do. You have like 6 books you're rotating because I rotate like 3 at a time. I don't read nearly as much as you, but I'm always rotating because of curiosity. And I've done the whole dense book thing. I don't really have a dense one I'm working through now, but like slow down, on that one, but it's probably like bounce to the other ones if you need to blow through a book, and satisfy that curiosity because those are like more the old ones might be like a textbook in a way. It's like, okay, I really want to understand these principles because that then is going to, span out, tree out to these other things, strategies and stuff that you can apply.
And the other way I've been approaching books lately too is, take what you want, leave the rest, right? So I will actually open up a book, read the table of contents and go, chapters 1 through 3 don't really interest me by the chapter title. And but chapter 4, it's breaking down a story structure that I've never heard of before. Okay, I'm going to go read this chapter because this is sort of new information that hasn't been presented to me yet. So I've stopped seeing books as this thing where I need to start on page 1 and finish all the way through the book. And I've started seeing books as like these, I have a giant reference guide on my wall right here where I can just go pick up a book, open to chapter 5 and sort of get an answer, like a solution to a question I had,
Yeah. So all of that to say is, I think Marx has he basically has a library in his brain between his ears, but he also had one right behind him too. He has a massive library as well, and he actually reads all of his books and retains a lot of it, or most of it. So, I don't know. That's why I've always been so fascinated with Marx and just his different perspectives. And this was no shortage to this podcast. So, I don't know. I just wanted to kind of not edify him, but like just to really back up like a lot of what he gives on these podcasts. You don't hear a lot of us because it's literally us like, holy crap, this is a new concept. That's a new concept. Oh, I've been doing that, but it's not connected to this. I could see how the trickle effect, holy moly. Okay.
Yeah.
So he thinks deep about this stuff. That's why we go to him as our mentor.
I also like how he used this as a testing ground. He's like, I'm going to give a presentation to Jay Abraham. Let me test it to your audience first.
Well, here you go. Hopefully we can release it before Jay.
Yeah.
But so if you felt like, Marx is your boy, or if you just want to just ask him some questions and maybe there's something here that resonated with you, give him an email. Like the guy will respond to you. So don't feel like, you're not, whatever. You're just email the guy.
Yeah.
He would love it.
I believe it's marxar@me.com. So MARXAR @me.com.
That's it. So other than that, make sure you grab the notes, the action guides for this episode. It's over at flowchartgroup.com. As always, you got 2 weeks and they go away. But so within 2 weeks of this going live, you can get those notes for free. Flowchartgroup.com. You also get access to the Facebook community where we're all hanging out. And we have Easy Webinar, our sponsor.
Easy Webinar.
Tell us about the Easy.
So Easy Webinar is it's a great webinar platform. When we're doing webinars, it's the one that we're going to. It does hybrid webinars, live webinars, automated webinars. The thing I really like about it is it's one platform that kind of does it all. I think traditionally, if you wanted to do live webinars, you go get this platform. If you wanted to do automated webinars, you go get this platform. And then you have two different webinar platforms that you're kind of dealing in. Well, Easy Webinar is just kind of like all under one roof. It kind of handles it all, right? So you got the live, the hybrid, the automated. You can do streaming from it. The dashboard is beautiful. He's really been doing a lot of improvements on the platform, making the usability better. So it's a great webinar platform, and I think everybody should be using it. So you can grab it over at easywebinar.com/hustle, and he's hooking you up with a discount.
Hustle. Easywebinar.com/hustle. Yeah, they go deeper on webinars than I think any other company I've known of, because they just keep iterating and getting better and better. So check them out. And then subscribe. If you're not a subscriber and you're this far in the episode, hit that subscribe button for us. It's much easier than going around and telling your mom, your kids, your dog, your friends, all that people about the podcast. I mean, you can still do that.
It hurts less than sticking a fork in your eye.
Wow. Yeah. So you should just hit that subscribe button.
Yeah.
Don't put the fork in your eye.
Yeah.
Something my kid would do. You still do that?
Sometimes.
Oh, man.
Only when I'm listening to a podcast I really like, though.
You got to subscribe to more shows, my friend. That's your problem. Well, there you go. There's your remedy. Please hit subscribe, tell others that way. And,
subscribe on whatever platform you're listening on. And if you have a friend or family member or anybody that you think would enjoy this and this episode, if you have an enemy who would hate this episode, send it to them too.
Yeah, Marx will straighten them out if you really. But seriously, actually, that's a really good point. Like, if you feel like someone in your life, a business owner or not, I mean, this episode could unlock some crazy big things for folks, because Marx is not your typical cookie. that
not your typical cookie.
Your cookie. Well, he eats a lot of beef, so I won't go there.
He probably does not eat cookies.
I don't think so. But yeah, he's not your typical person that graces our stage here. So if someone else out there should hear Marx, please go send it over to him.
Appreciate ya. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next week, or maybe later this week. I don't know what day this episode's coming out. We'll see you on the next one. Thanks everybody for listening to this episode of the Hustle and Flowchart podcast. Before taking the time to listen, we want to give you something a little bit special. Every single episode that we do, we actually have somebody on our team take notes. We basically have a Cliff's Notes version of every episode where you can go and find all of the tips and tactics that they laid out, all of the resources that they laid out, all the good stuff from this episode. We actually have a nice simple notes version that you can find on our website. So go to evergreenprofits.com, find this episode that you just listened to, and give us your email address and we'll send you the notes.